everybody. Welcome back to the Trading Post. It's me, Fred, and the co-host, Old Noodle here. Tell him hi, Noodle. Tell him hi. All right, we're going to go ahead and do, which episode are we doing, Noodle? Oh, that's right. We're doing episode 18, The Origins of Beer. This will be interesting, huh? Something a little different. Throw it in the works. All right. But let's get started on this, okay? The origins of beer. All right, the earliest known alcoholic beverage may have been brewed around 7000 BC in China in the village of Jiahu, where Neolithic pottery shows evidence of a mead-type concoction made from rice, honey, and fruit. The first barley beer was most likely born in the Middle East, where hard evidence of beer production dates back about 5,000 years to the Sumerians of ancient Mesopotamia. Not only have archaeologists unearthed ceramic vessels from 3400 BC still sticky with beer residue, but the hymn to Ninkasi, an 1800 BC ode to the Sumerian goddess of beer, describes a recipe for a beloved ancient brew made by female priestesses. These nutrient-rich suds were a cornerstone of the Sumerian diet and were likely a safer alternative to drinking water from nearby rivers and canals, which were often contaminated by animal waste. Beer consumption also flourished under the Babylonian Empire, where its ancient set laws, the Code of Hammurabi, decreed a daily beer ration to citizens. The drink was distributed according to social standing. Laborers received 2 liters a day, while priests and administrators got 5. At the time, the drink was always unfiltered and cloudy. Bitter sediment would gather at the bottom of the drinking vessels. Special drinking straws were invented to avoid muck. Few ancient cultures loved their beer as much as the ancient Egyptians. Workers along the Nile were often paid with an allotment of a nutritious, sweet brew, and everyone from pharaohs to peasants, and even children, drank beer as part of their everyday diet. Many of these ancient beers were flavored with unusual additives such as mandrake, dates, and olive oil. More modern-tasting libations would not arrive until Middle Ages, when Christian monks and other artisans began brewing beers seasoned with hops. The first fermented beverages most likely emerged alongside the development of cereal agriculture some 12,000 years ago. The earliest evidence of beer brewing can be traced back to Mesopotamia, where it was an integral part of their culture and religion. To answer plainly, there are thousands of beer brands around the world, but beer has its origin, a place of birth, what have you. Beer is one of the oldest and most popular alcoholic beverages in the world. Its history can be traced back thousands of years to the ancient civilizations of Mesopotamia and Egypt. The origin of brewing is fascinating and the subject of intense research and debate. We will explore the history of beer, ancient brewing methods, development of modern brewing methods, the use of modern ingredients, and the popularity of craft beer. Where did beer originally come from? Germany? Most people think beer originated in Germany because of the well-known German drinking tradition. It's true that the majority of contemporary beer types developed in Europe, especially in Germany, but many historians believe it originated in the Middle East and was first brewed in ancient Mesopotamia. The ancient Egyptians and Mesopotamians are often credited with the invention of beer, but there is evidence that beer was being brewed in other parts of the world as well. In what is now modern-day China, beer was brewed as far back as 7,000 years ago. There is also evidence of beer being brewed in ancient Peru and Chile. The earliest evidence of beer brewing can be traced back to ancient Mesopotamia, where it was an integral part of their culture and religion. Beer brewing was so important to the ancient Mesopotamians that it was even mentioned in one of the oldest known written works, the Epic of Gilgamesh. The ancient Mesopotamians used a variety of techniques to brew beer, including a primitive form of distillation. This process involved boiling the beer in a pot, then condensing the steam and collecting the liquid. This method was used to make a variety of beers, from light and sweet to dark and bitter. Storage. Okay. Beer was stored in large ceramic jars called kvevari or kuwapi. These jars were typically made from clay and were often lined with bitumen, a sticky black substance to make them watertight. The jars could hold several gallons of beer and were used to ferment, store, and transport the beer. The ancient Mesopotamians used beer for religious and social purposes. Beer was also used as a form of payment for labor and services, and it was even used to pay taxes. History shows that they used beer to treat a variety of medical ailments, including headaches and stomach aches. The earliest records of beer brewing in ancient Egypt come from the tomb of King Narmer, who ruled around 3200 BC. In this tomb, there are depictions of workers harvesting and processing grain, and there is even a scene of a worker carrying a jug of beer. This suggests that beer was an important part of ancient Egyptian society, and it was likely consumed by all classes of people. The ancient Egyptians used a variety of techniques to make their beer. They would often mix the ingredients together and then boil the mixture in large clay pots. The beer would then be cooled and left to ferment for several days before being consumed. This method of brewing beer was similar to the method used by the ancient Greeks and Romans. The beer was also flavored with herbs, and this gave the beer a unique taste. The ancient Egyptians also used a variety of additives to make the beer more palatable, such as dates, honey, and other fruits. The ancient Egyptians developed a unique method of storing their beer. They would use large jars or amphorae, which were sealed with wax. The beer would then be stored in these containers for long periods of time, and the beer would remain fresh for up to several months. Beer was a common beverage and was used for both pleasure and medicinal purposes. Ancient Egyptians also believed that beer was a gift from the gods and used it in religious ceremonies. Ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia are credited with developing the art of brewing beer. It is thought that the first batch of beer was accidentally brewed when a grain-based gruel was exposed to wild yeasts in the air after being left out in the open. As a result, the gruel began to ferment, turning it into a foamy alcoholic beverage. In Mesopotamia, beer was brewed from wheat and barley, while in Egypt it was brewed from barley and emmer, a type of wheat. The ancient brewing process was quite labor-intensive and began with the malting of grains. This involved soaking the grains in water for several days, then drying them in the sun or on hot stones. The malted grains were then ground into a coarse powder, which was mixed with water to form mash. The mash was boiled, then strained to remove the husks and other solids. The resulting liquid, known as wort, was then boiled again and flavored with herbs and spices. Finally, the wort was fermented with yeast, resulting in beer. The ancient brewing process was quite different from modern brewing, as it was more of an art than science. Ancient brewers had to rely on their senses to determine when the beer was ready to drink, as they did not have access to the sophisticated technologies used in modern brewing. As a result, ancient beer was often sour or bitter and could be quite strong. What was the first beer ever brewed? Gruit, a sort of beer, is thought to have been the first beer ever brewed. Gruit was made with a combination of herbs, spices, and other ingredients such as bog myrtle, yarrow, and heather. Up to the 16th century, when hops started to be used as a bittering ingredient in beer, this variety of beer was widely consumed in Europe. Since the Middle Ages and up until the present day, there have been constant efforts to create contemporary brewing techniques. The art of making beer has evolved along with technology. A quick look at how these methods have developed over the years. Middle Ages. In the Middle Ages, beer was brewed using primitive methods that were often inefficient and time-consuming. Beer was typically brewed in large open vats with the ingredients added in whatever order the brewer chose. This resulted in a beer with inconsistent quality, as the ingredients were not always mixed in the same proportions. Okay, 16th century. The invention of the hop press in the 16th century allowed brewers to create more consistent beers by pressing the hops into pellets and adding them to the wort. This invention also made it possible for brewers to utilize more hops, which led to a more bitter and hoppy beer. Hoppy. Now, in the 19th century, the invention of the thermometer allowed brewers to measure the temperature of the wort more accurately. This enabled consistent fermentation. In the 20th century, the hydrometer was created in the 20th century, which improved brewers' ability to gauge the specific gravity of the wort. Brewers were able to manufacture beers with more consistent alcohol levels as a result. Modern brewing. Brewers were able to more effectively separate the sediments from the liquid thanks to the development of the centrifuge in the late 20th century. As a result, brewers were capable of producing clearer beer with fewer suspended particles as a result. Today, modern brewing methods are more efficient and precise than ever before. Brewers can control every aspect of the brewing process, from the temperature of the wort to the specific gravity of the beer. The use of modern ingredients in beer brewing has revolutionized the industry and opened up a world of possibilities for craft brewers. The traditional ingredients of beer are water, barley, hops, and yeasts. But modern brewers have experimented with a variety of new ingredients to create unique flavors. Common modern ingredients include wheat, rye, corn, oats, spices, fruits, and even chocolate. Additionally, many craft brewers use unique hop varieties to create unique flavor profiles. Here are some of the uses of modern ingredients. Wide appeal. By incorporating these modern ingredients, craft brewers can create beers with a wide range of flavors and aromas. This has made it possible for craft brewers to produce a variety of appealing beers for customers. More tolerable alcohol content. Use of modern ingredients has also allowed craft brewers to create beers with a lower alcohol content, which is appealing to many consumers. Craft brewers are now able to produce more approachable and sessionable beers as a result. Gluten-free. Craft brewers can now produce gluten-free beers, which appeals to many customers who have dietary constraints thanks to the use of modern ingredients. Breweries are opening up all around the world at an ever-increasing rate, which has increased the appeal of the craft beer movement. The term craft beer refers to alcoholic beverages produced in small batches by independent brewers utilizing conventional and or cutting-edge techniques and ingredients. Since the late 1990s, the craft beer market has seen substantial growth. Currently, more than 7,000 craft brewers are operating in the U.S. A quick look at things you should know about craft beer. Craft beers often have a higher alcohol content than mass-produced beers and are often more expensive due to the higher cost of ingredients and the smaller batch size. It has also been embraced by foodies who appreciate the complexity of craft beers and the way they can pair with different types of food. The craft beer movement has also been embraced by those who are looking for an alternative to mass-produced beer, as craft beers often have a more distinct flavor and are made with higher quality ingredients. Many craft brewers are using sustainable practices such as using locally sourced ingredients, recycling, and using renewable energy resources. This has made craft beer a popular choice for those looking to reduce their environmental impact. Craft beer festivals, tap takeovers, and beer dinners have become popular events for craft beer drinkers to come together and share their love of beer. This has made craft beer a popular choice for these looking for a more social experience. Okay, now we got a little bit left and we're almost done here, you guys. Certainly brewing at home in America has become more popular recently. However, in Northern Europe, the tradition of brewing at home goes back centuries. Fun fact, it was considered to be a household chore commonly only done by women. Simply put, home brewing is the process of making beer on a smaller scale, usually at home. Home brewers have the freedom to experiment with different recipes and techniques to create a beer that is unique to them. This can be an enjoyable and rewarding adventure. It can also be an economical way to make beer, as homebrewers can save money on ingredients and equipment. Home brewing kits are widely available, making it easy for anyone to get started. Brewing at home can be a great way to learn more about beer and explore the world of beer. Many home brewers also join home brewing clubs, user groups, or organizations which can provide support and advice to new brewers. Home brewing beer can be as simple or as complex as the brewer desires. If you're looking at brewing your beer at home, we'll walk you through it. Time to have fun with some home brewed beer. With this, you can rest assured that your Sunday night's game will not be hampered by questions about the origin of beer. The origin of beer brewing is shrouded in mystery, but evidence suggests it has been around for thousands of years. Beer brewing has evolved over the centuries from the ancient methods used in Mesopotamia and Egypt to the modern method used today. Beer brewing has become a popular hobby for many people, with craft beer becoming increasingly popular in recent years. Home brewing kits are readily available, allowing anyone to make their own beer from the comfort of their own home. If you're looking to get started on brewing your beer at home, join a community of home brewers or get your brewing supplies. Others say the first beer probably came from Africa because that's where the first people were, said Patrick McGovern, a biomolecular archaeologist at the Penn Museum and a longtime authority on ancient beverages. Although no evidence has been found of a Paleolithic African brew, the holy grail of fermented beverages, according to McGovern, he suspects it would have been made from wild millet or sorghum, grains long cultivated and used for beer in Africa and flavored with whatever grew nearby. The first beer mugs may have been made of animal skins or tightly woven grasses, McGovern said. A team of Stanford researchers found something like that in Israel in 2015 when they came across what may have been a 13,000-year-old beer-making operation in a burial cave near Haifa. It was used by the Natufian people, who were known to harvest and process grain. As almost any cereal containing certain sugars can undergo spontaneous fermentation due to wild yeasts in the air, it is possible that beer-like drinks were independently developed throughout the world soon after a tribe or culture had domesticated cereal. Chemical tests of ancient pottery jars reveal that beer was produced about 3500 BC in what is today Iran, and was one of the first known biological engineering tasks where the biological process of fermentation is used. The earliest chemically confirmed barley beer to date was discovered at Godin Tepe in the central Zagros Mountains of Iran, where fragments of a jug from between 5,400 and 5,000 years ago was found to be coated with beer stone, or a byproduct of the brewing process. Archaeological findings also show that Chinese villages were brewing fermented alcoholic drinks as far back as 7,000 BC on small and individual scale, with the production process and methods similar to that of ancient Egypt and ancient Mesopotamia. The process by which the production of beer was discovered is a matter of debate. Okay. Author Thomas Sinclair says his book, Beer, Bread, and the Seeds of Change, Agriculture's Imprint on World History, that the discovery of beer may have been an accidental find. The precursor to beer was soaking grains in water and making a porridge or gruel, as grain was chewy and hard to digest alone. Ancient peoples would heat the gruel and leave it throughout the days until it was gone. A benefit to heating the gruel would be to sanitize the water, and the temperature required to denature grain proteins would also denature disease microbes. Leaving the gruel to set would change it. Fermentation would occur, and they noticed the change in taste and effect. Yeasts would settle on the mixture and rapidly consume the oxygen in the mixture. The low oxygen would then cause the yeast to digest sugars by anaerobic respiration, which causes the release of ethanol or alcohol and carbon dioxide as byproducts, and hence beer was born. Okay. The earliest archaeological evidence of fermentation consists of 13,000-year-old residues of a beer with the consistency of gruel used by the semi-nomadic Natufians for ritual feasting at the Rakafet Cave in the Carmel Mountains near Haifa in Israel. Now, the Natufians culture is a late Epipaleolithic archaeological culture of the Neolithic prehistoric Levant in Western Asia, dating to around 15,000 to 11,500 years ago. Natufian communities may be the ancestors of the builders of the first Neolithic settlements of the region, which may have been the earliest in the world. That's just a little note there, guys. The first written records of brewing come from Mesopotamia, ancient Iraq, with the oldest in the Sumerian language from approximately 4000 BC. These include early evidence of beer in the 3,900-year-old Sumerian poem honoring Ninkasi, the patron goddess of brewing, which contains the oldest surviving beer recipe describing the production of beer from barley via bread. Ninkasi, you are the one who pours out the filtered beer of the collector vat. It is like the onrush of Tigris and Euphrates. That was a quote. Ninkasi was the Mesopotamian goddess of beer and brewing. It is possible in the first millennium BC she was known as Kurunitu, derived from a term referring to a type of high-quality beer. Approximately 5,000 years ago, workers in the city of Uruk was paid by their employers in beer. Beer is also mentioned in the Epic of Gilgamesh, in which the wild man Enkidu is given beer to drink. He ate until he was full, drank 7 pitchers of beer, his heart grew light, his face glowed, and he sang out with joy. Okay. In February 2019, archaeologists from Mola Headland Infrastructure and experts from Highways England found evidence of first Iron Age beer dated back over 2,000 years during roadworks in Cambridgeshire. In February 2021, archaeologists found a 5,000-year-old beer factory in Abydos, Egypt, dating back to the reign of King Narmer, early dynastic period. Confirmed written evidence of ancient beer production in Armenia can be obtained from Xenophon in his work Anabasis, 5th century BC, when he was in one of the ancient Armenian villages, in which he wrote, "There were stores within of wheat and barley and vegetables and wine made from barley in great big bowls. The grains of barley malt lay floating in the beverage up to the lip of the vessel, and reeds lay in them, some longer, some shorter, without joints. When you were thirsty, you must take one of these into your mouth and suck. The beverage, without an admixture of water, was very strong and of a delicious flavor to certain palates, but the taste must be acquired." Beer became so vital to all the grain-growing civilizations of Eurasian and North African antiquity, including Egypt, so much so that in 1868 James Death put forward a theory in the beer of the Bible that the manna from heaven that God gave the Israelites was a bread-based porridge like beer called wusa. These beers were often thick, more of a gruel than a drink, and drinking straws were used by the Sumerians to avoid the bitter solids left over from fermentation. Though beer was drunk in ancient Rome, it was replaced in popularity by wine. Tacitus wrote disparagingly of the beer brewed by the Germanic peoples of his day. Now, the Thracians were also known to consume beer made from rye even since the 5th century BC. As the ancient Greek logographer Hellenicus of Lesbos says, their name for beer was Brutos or Britos. The Romans called their brew cerevisia, from the Celtic word for it. Beer was apparently enjoyed by some Roman legionaries. For instance, among the Vindolanda tablets from Vindolanda in Roman Britain, dated 97 to 103 AD, the cavalry Decurion Masculus wrote a letter to Prefect Flavius Cerealis inquiring about the exact instructions for his men for the following day. Excuse me. This included a polite request for beer to be sent to the garrison, which had entirely consumed its previous stock of beer. Now, ancient Nubians used beer as an antibiotic medicine. In ancient Mesopotamia, hold on. Okay. In ancient Mesopotamia, clay tablets indicate that the majority of brewers were probably women, and that brewing was a fairly well-respected occupation during the time, being the only profession in Mesopotamia which derived social sanction and divine protection from female deities, goddesses, specifically Ninkasi, who covered the production of beer, Ceres, who was used in a metonymic way to refer to beer, and Siduri, who covered the enjoyment of beer. Mesopotamia brewing appears to have incorporated the usage of a twice-baked barley bread called bapir, which was exclusively used for brewing beer. It was discovered early that reusing the same container for fermenting mash would produce more reliable results. Brewers on the move carried their tubs with them. Now, the last one we're going to cover. In ancient India, the Vedas and Ramayana mention a beer-like drink called sura, consumed during the Vedic period, which was 1500 to 500 BC. It was the favorite of the god Indra. Kautilya has also mentioned two intoxicating beverages made from rice called Madaka and Prasanna. There was a whole lot more, y'all, but I don't want to extend this episode. If you want more of it, put down comments below. Let me know. All right. Wow, a lot of interesting stuff on this. A lot of interesting stuff. I don't even know where to go with this. Listen, if you guys have any questions with any of this stuff, put it in the comments. I'll try to answer what I can. I'm not a professor. I'm not an archaeologist. I'm just doing the notes. I'm trying to get the best notes I can on these subjects. But it's interesting. You look at all these different cultures and all the distant past that they have record of them actually having beer and producing it. It started out as gruel. It was a mush, but that's kind of like your whole progress process, You learn, you graduate, you move, and then they started using drinking straws, which you'll see a picture of that on here before I even start this episode. Okay, if you're wondering what the heck this is, they got all kind of designs in it. It's real, like almost looks ritualistic or religious type of thing. It may have been. I don't know. I can't say for sure, but obviously they took their drinking seriously. So should we. Anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was interesting for me to find out and to go through this stuff. I'm going to go replay back through this stuff. I got to watch these videos and see how fast I went through it, because I don't want to go too fast. I don't want to go too slow. I try to condense it and get it in a timely manner to you guys, so that way you're not sitting here being bored out of your mind. Anyways, y'all, that's episode 18, The Origins of Beer. So, okay, I'll have a final thing after this one. I got to splice it in. You have a good one. Sorry about that, guys. I think I got too many videos still on my phone here. It's kind of bogging me down, if you know what I mean. But anyways, I think it's very interesting. A 13,000-year-old beer making operation in a burial cave in where was that at? In Israel. Wow. Hey, we don't give credit to the ancient ones, man. I think the people in the old world were a lot smarter than we like give them credit for. But yeah, yes, it's pretty interesting. You know, heck, I don't know. I might even go out and get me my own home brewing kit. Maybe we'll test it out. Have that as an episode, you know? Never know. We could do that. Put a comment down below if you want me to do it. You know? Let me know. Say, yeah. Homebrew instructions. We'll do it. We'll check it out. Hey, I'm willing to do whatever. We can get into it, you know? But I think this was interesting, you know? Trying to gain knowledge on just about everything, you know? I never would have thought all this stuff until I started researching it, but it's interesting. It's really interesting. And like I said, I went through it fairly quickly. I'm sorry about that. I do apologize for that. But I'm gonna play it back and see if I did go extremely too fast or if it's on that borderline. We'll check it. If it's too fast, then I may have to re-record again. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. It wasn't really long, so it shouldn't be too hard for you to check out. I'm gonna post some pictures on here before I even get on. Have a little bit of music and some pictures on there. And just some stuff for entertainment, you know, instructional and entertainment uses only. That's what this is for. Okay? And, you know, that's episode 18, The Origins of Beer. And we can even do a part 2 if you guys like to. If you want me to dig further in the rabbit hole, let me know. Thank you, Trading Post family. You have a good one.